Hello and welcome to this special recording of Leading Edges An Evening With. We were lucky enough to be joined by 3 industry VIPs who shared the wisdom and insight that they had gained on their career journeys to inspire you in yours. On our panel were Paul Mills-Hicks, Food Commercial Director at Sainsbury's, Aileen Nathan, Commercial Operations Associate Director at Procter & Gamble, and Mark Webster, Financial Controller UK and Ireland at Compass Group. Over the next 15 minutes, hear about how they got started in the industry, what obstacles they had to overcome, and the importance of building your personal brand. Enjoy.
Okay, so for me, I mentioned earlier that the school that I went to didn't really have amazing career advisors, and that I pretty much had to try and figure out the direction I wanted to take on my own. And actually, they happened in 2 ways. So there was 2 people that I met that influenced me, that made me realise that I wanted to go in the direction that I went to. My first job ever was I was a checkout girl at a Sainsbury's store. Woo! And I did that job for 2 years when I was 16 to 18. I ran out the door to get that job when I was 16 because I was desperate to earn some money. So I could just buy some new trainers. I remember that. And I used to have a regular customer who came in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. buy his baguette. But I used to see him occasionally turn up in a really quite nice car. And he wore a nice suit. And I thought, oh, he's doing well for himself. And so one day I said to him, what do you do? And he said, I head up all of sales for cable and wireless. And I was like, oh, that sounds quite good. How did you get there? And he said, well, I did a solid degree at university and did solid A-levels, solid degree at university. Then I worked for a few years, then did an MBA, came back, and then if you're not earning 6 figures by the time you're 30, then you failed. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds great. I want to do that. And so I tried to do a solid degree at university, and I met someone along the lines who worked for Procter & Gamble, and that sounded like, a fun place to work. And I met him on a crazy summer job, and he worked at P&G, and I just thought, wow, that sounds like a good job, a bit like the cable and wireless job. I can do the same route. The only thing I didn't do was the MBA, so maybe I failed that way.
Not an MBA?
No, I haven't done an MBA.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. So accountancy gave me the opportunity to probably defer the decision ultimately, because it gave me the opportunity that it was a broad development of my skill set, and I had the opportunity then to kind of decide, and it probably took me 10 years to work out that I wanted different experiences to be able to continue to get development. And I think the bit I love about industry is, regardless of what the role is, I feel you make a difference. And I think that's the thing that's really important to me is having fun and feeling that I'm making a difference. As soon as I feel the light disappears for that, then I suppose I want to do something different. And I think that's why I've stayed at the organisation for such a long time, is I feel I continue to make a difference.
I've always looked pretty young. I don't know if anyone else thinks that, gets constantly told that they look really young, even if,
Unfortunately not. Because they absolutely not.
You look young. So I've constantly got told throughout my career I look like a baby, and I've taken over certain jobs where I've dealt with customers who've done the classic kind of look me up and down and go, gosh, what's this little young'un gonna be able to teach me? And I've had that from the day that I joined P&G when I was 21, and yes, I was young, but pretty much every role I've ever had, I think I've always had to kind of prove myself a little bit more. I start off with the credentials, because that's one of the ways that I've learned to tackle the perception of my age versus the reality of my experience. There's no one day in particular, but it's a common thread that's been with me my entire career. So if you are the same, where you feel like people perceive you in a certain way by the way that you look or the way that you come across, then figure out your best way to counter that, so it becomes less of an issue, and the person can get through the perception and into the reality, which is you being awesome.
Mark, you mentioned about the lateral movement. So can I put that to you first?
I reference a guy I worked with. He's now the group head of HR for Compass. And I think the bit of advice he gave me is it's a bit like building blocks in a house. So if you look at the skill sets and the competencies that you've currently got, and you look at the skills and competencies that you've got for that new role, is don't necessarily go for the roles where you've got 100% complete new skills and competencies. Look at a role where maybe you've already got 50% of those competencies and you're going to develop a further 50%, because what you find is you then spend all your time just focusing on that new element you need to focus on, and the other 50% will look after themselves. So I think it becomes like building blocks in a house, if that makes sense. And what you do is you keep kind of zigzagging up. So I think when you're looking to kind of find that new role, it's kind of find the one that is complement to your existing skills, but then gives you the opportunity to broaden some other skills as well.
I think it just all boils down to who you are and what you know about yourself. So for example, for me, I kind of always knew that I got very lucky. So with P&G, when I found out about what it did, and then I found someone who worked in the organisation. I said, oh, what do you think I'd be good at in P&G? And he said, well, you seem pretty good at talking to people, so maybe you should try sales. And actually, I really feel like I found something that I had a lot of passion for, I could be quite good at, and I could keep progressing that and learning how to progress that within the company. So I've never really wanted to go, oh, I want to be in finance now, or I want to be in marketing now. I've always gone, like, I really like sales, I just want to keep being the most amazing commercial manager I can possibly be. So if you know that you're in a certain function, you're like, this does not float my boat, what am I doing here? I really like that person's job and I think I'd be awesome at that person's job. Then, know it in yourself and try and approach, people about it. So again, find mentors, find peers, find someone who's done that before to get advice and tips on how you would possibly do it. But, don't stay in something that you don't love, because you're never going to be the best version of yourself that you can be if you come in every day. They do this comparison with, if you try and, if you're right-handed and you try and write with your right hand, you can, write and write. But if you try and write with your left hand, it's like really difficult and it's quite hard and you have to really think about it. And if you're in the wrong type of job for your, for what you think you're good at, it's going to be like coming in every day and writing with your left hand. So find something that you can write with your right hand in.
Paul, to finish.
So just building on that, you don't have to, someone once described it like a rubber band. So if you stretch it that way, that's okay. If you stretch it that way, you then break the thing. So that journey, the best way to do is let's say if you were in marketing and you wanted to become a buyer, there are in-between steps that you can take that stretch the rubber band and your learning and move you towards what you think is your destination job without you having to worry about how you do that. I mean, we would be kidding you, and I think you use a really important word. I certainly think a lot of what I've done is just down to luck, being in the right place, having a brand about trust, and it happened. So if you were to all walk out of here and say what the three of us have suggested is you should just go and apply to be a buyer or go and run a factory or be a marketing director tomorrow, you'll be heartbroken because it ain't going to happen very quickly. But what you can do is a lot of our organisations have got project roles. Project roles move you in that direction. They allow you to build a brand. So you need to have a plan of how you can move there over a period of time by building that knowledge for yourself that you really want to be there, but also de-risking the manager's decision. So in virtually every meeting where we have had to appoint someone, you've got to be happy with the person, the personal values, and the only thing that you then go through is there a risk of making this appointment? So you know, and what you want to do is when people consider you for a role is give as little reasons why to say no in terms of past experience as possible. So think of that rubber band, stretch it one way, fine, stretch it two ways, and it's likely to break.
Like my family, as I call it, within the femcare and the home care team is the place that everyone wants to work, because we have a lot of fun at the same time as working really hard. So think about it, because it's true what you stand for. If someone said to you, so you leave a room and you want people to talk about you, think about what you want them to say about you, because hopefully you want them to say positive things about you. And so how do you give that impression so that they are the things that they would describe you as? I would definitely do that.
I think the other bit that does come true, and it happens as you get older and wiser, it's really difficult to be something you're not. So I have a relatively easy-going style. No one thinks I'm young, but people think... yesterday, for example, someone said to me, 3 people, a board director, a departmental director, and another said, you're always scruffy, you look really nice in a suit. I'm thinking, how the hell do I end up being scruffy? I think I look really good. And what it struck me is there's no point me trying to turn up and be incredibly serious, dark suited and oak panelled in my approach. I'm much better off just being me.
Yeah.
And it allows you to be much more consistent. And I think one of the things I've observed is people who put themselves under huge stress to get on, try and progress through the ranks, is they're desperate to try and be what they think someone else wants from them, as opposed to being themselves. And then all that happens is you come across as someone that is a bit odd or weird, and you don't think anyone sees it, but in fact they all do see it because it's not you. So to my mind, trust and consistency are probably the big drivers of that.
I think it's exactly the same. Just be yourself, be sincere. I think you kind of see this trendy word of being authentic. I think sincere is probably a better word. And if you're going to look at yourself, the way I'd kind of take the different aspects of your life as if it's rooms in a house, and take the walls down and see whether you are consistent in each of those different parts of your life. And I think that's what it's all about, is being more yourself, and just don't follow necessarily a formula, because I don't think there is one. I think that would have been the piece of advice that, if I'd known when I was starting out in my career, that would have been the bit I probably would have grasped very early on.
That's drawing the evening to a close. So can I just ask you to show your appreciation for Paul, Aileen and Mark? Thank you.